Radical reinvention is a hallmark of the pop girl experience. Some do it to prove themselves critically, others do it to make a statement. The archetype of the good girl going bad is probably one of the most reliable archetypes for these image changes. There is a reason why someone having a reputation era has become a common turn of phrase amongst young folks. However, one of the most insane you just had to be there examples was Miley's Bangerz era. It was her fourth album, first under a non-Disney label, and one of the most culturally relevant albums of the early 2010s. The Bangerz era saw Miley do a full 180 in image and sound to great success. She collected her first #1 single, caused moral panic at the VMAs, and delivered what I considered at the time to be her best music to date. Bangerz was part PR calculation, part public disaster, part performance art, 100% unprecedented. You know the drill, we're going to talk about the lead up to the era, the conception of the era, and then do a deep dive into the music. The road. Up until this point, Miley Cyrus had best been known for her role on the hit Disney series Hannah Montana. It was a series that spanned 4 seasons, 2 movies, spawned 5 albums, and launched Miley into the A-list as both an actress and a singer. It also for a time overshadowed Miley, who had been trying to launch a music and acting career for herself. Miley's own music career was officially launched as the second half of the Hannah Montana 2 soundtrack. Cyrus was no chart slouch. Her debut single See You Again was a top 10 hit. 7 Things off Breakout did very well too. The Climb from Hannah Montana the movie hit 4 on the charts, but there was always sort of this need for her to mature in the public's eyes. Her final 2 projects with Hollywood Records, a subsidiary of Disney, helped shift the public's view of her. The Time of Our Lives EP contained her most successful single up until this point, Party in the USA, a patriotic 4th of July pop staple which hit her then peak of 2 on the charts. Co-written by Jessie J and produced by then hitmaker Dr. Luke, it really marked a rift between her Hannah persona and Cyrus herself. A performance at the Teen Choice Awards where Miley pole danced on an ice cream cart caused an uproar. Some noted that it was just her evolving. Disney started to distance themselves, but Miley defended herself, even welcoming comparisons to Britney Spears, who ironically would feature on Bangerz. Rather than back down, Miley released a 3rd and final album with Hollywood Records, Can't Be Tamed. While the title track was successful, Can't Be Tamed was this dance pop album that attempted to capture the auto-tune washed sound of the time. It didn't hit the mark for resetting Cyrus's public image, and on top of that, a controversy where she was picked apart for smoking salvia overshadowed the record. The underperformance of this record led to Miley prioritizing her film career for a time. She had been in the last song with her future ex-husband Gale from The Hunger Games. She was meant to be in Hotel Transylvania before being replaced by her peer Selena Gomez due to a penis cake incident. 2012's LOL, an indie film with Demi Moore, flopped, and by 2013 she was only in direct-to-video movies. A critical turning point was her appearance on 2.5 Men as Missy, where she debuted her now infamous blonde pixie cut. Realizing that film and TV was not the move, Miley staged one of the biggest music comebacks of the decade. 2013 saw Miley officially join RCA and switch up management. She considered Bangerz her proper start over. Miley decided to draw on dirty South hip-hop sounds, part country, part rap, all new for her. She sought out the legendary Pharrell Williams and rising star Mike Will Made It, who himself said the title was inspired because the whole album was bangers. She previewed her new musical image, featuring on Mike Will Made It's 23 with Wiz Khalifa and Juicy J before dropping We Can't Stop. Initially conceived for Rihanna, this killer smash hit introduced the world to the new Miley. The music video broke records and was the first one in Vivo history to hit 100 million views. It peaked at number 2 in the charts, but it remains one of Cyrus's most iconic hits to date. August brought the heat when Miley debuted the cover art for Bangerz, which resembled Miami Vice 1980s aesthetics. August 25th changed the world. Miley put the record up for pre-order and even dropped Wrecking Ball. That same day, all hell broke loose at the infamous 2013 VMAs. A performance of We Can't Stop started with Miley wearing a bear costume, only to strip off into a nude 2-piece when Robin Thicke came on to sing Blurred Lines with Cyrus. And then this happened. Culturally, Miley became the main character at that moment. She broke Twitter records, overshadowed the two pop heavyweights of the time, Gaga and Katie's performances, and it worked. Forbes says that her antics led to 90,000 sales for Wrecking Ball in just 2 days. The hits kept on coming in September when Miley debuted the now iconic music video for Wrecking Ball, which featured Miley licking a sledgehammer and swinging naked on a literal wrecking ball. The song would become her first #1 hit, and like the previous single, a staple in Cyrus's canon as an artist. Bangerz and its aftermath. The record debuted on September 30th with physicals out on October 4th. It was positively received. Many praised Cyrus's voice, her daringness to explore new sounds, while others called into question the album's cohesion and content. It made a couple of year-end lists and some decade-end lists as well. Commercially, it opened at #1, selling 270,000 units, eventually hitting triple platinum. It earned Miley her first Grammy nomination ever for Best Pop Vocal Album. A final single, Adore You, dropped, which didn't do as well as the other two, but still gave Miley a chance to showcase the multitude of the record's sound. Miley would embark on the Bangerz tour, which in itself was an event. Her opening acts were Iconopop, Sky Ferreira, and Lily Allen. The tour was noted for its trippy imagery, wild costumes, and concepts, and was generally praised by critics who noted the vocal talent. Also, it gave us this iconic clip. Since Bangerz, Miley has gone on to release an experimental album, denounced this record to release a country pop record, which fell flat, married Liam Hemsworth, divorced him, found her footing in rock, and scored her second #1 10 years later with Flowers off Endless Summer Vacation, her first album with Columbia Records. 10 years later, Bangerz is still odd to talk about. So much of the era itself was mired in the spectacle of Cyrus's personal life and antics that I think a lot of the music itself is overshadowed. Many casual listeners only remember Wrecking Ball and We Can't Stop, which were mega hits, but can barely recall the other tracks. The visual reliance on rap culture did not age particularly well when we weigh whether or not this was appreciation or appropriation. Even looking back, Miley herself has come to criticize some of the era over the years, most recently launching her latest single, Used to Be Young, on the 10th anniversary of the controversial VMA performance. The song was dedicated to fans who loved every version of her and remembers both the good and bad of the past. Bangerz happened. It's this cultural canon event that arose in a time where people started to question the culture long before Lana's infamous post. That same year, Lord's Pure Heroin served as a well-timed counter. Yet, in spite of its nature, we still remember the summer of 2013. Obama was on his second term, Miley was twerking, Twitter wasn't where stans lived, and we and pop culture were so much more naive. But I digress. Let's talk about the album itself. How did it age? Re-listening to Bangerz in full was odd for me. It's been a minute since I've heard every track. The singles really took precedent over the project. That's not to say that the entire album is throwaway filler, but it's not cohesive, or a realized project with a singular message other than Miley's grown up. The track listing felt more like a playlist than a story. Thematically, most of the songs center around relationships, particularly Miley's turbulent relationship at the time with Liam, fostering independence, and lean heavily into the instrumental work. Miley's voice is still the star of the show. My key takeaway were her versatility and tone, and the age quality of how she sings almost wiser beyond her years. Cyrus is a chameleon, floating in and out of tracks that just tonally jump all over the place. The record contains 6 features, which was a first for Cyrus at the time, as her previous records did not have them. I was surprised how I did like the album hearing it in full, even if it is a bit uneven. I can imagine that it was a very cathartic record. The opening track, Adore You itself, is the last track that you'd imagine Bangerz would open with. Adore You is a mid-tempo ballad that's heart-wrenching. It's just so warm and earnest. It's a pop R&B fusion that accentuates Miley's voice very well. The verses aren't detailed, but the emotion is felt. The chorus is very angelic. It really evokes this crushing embrace and raw love, bleeding on the edge of unhealthy. The bridge lends a fatality to this love. It was produced by Oren Yeol, who would go on to produce much of Younger Now. We Can't Stop is a classic. The opening pitch vocals slay me every time. The switch up between we can do, we can say, we can love who we want want. It works so well. Each verse really builds up the song over that simple piano backing before the pre-chorus, and the iconic dancing with Molly, or Miley depending on who you ask, lyric drives the energy. The chorus is just so feel good. Verse 2 is a mess. Most of it is very 2013, but the wordplay in the lines in the bathroom lines really have me giggle every time. The bridge itself is the highlight. I mean, the vocals employed here are some of her best. It really cuts through the noisy production, but Mike Will Made It and Rock City really killed it on this one. The title track, SMS, cleverly samples Push It by Salt and Peppa. Miley's rapping is a mixed effort. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it just doesn't work, sometimes she lands. Here, it's fun. Britney gets to do a cute verse for herself, but I was expecting a more substantial role beyond talk rapping. It always felt like a missed opportunity, but the lines strutting on the court make them nervous, call a timeout, hit really hard now that she's free. Again, Mike Will Made It's production cannot be praised enough. 4x4 with Nelly is a far more effective track for Miley's rapping skills. She gets to do this country twang. The story of the song is a simple retelling of Bonnie and Clyde with a bad boy. Each verse is just as hooky as the chorus itself. The confidence that she has in saying that she's a female rebel, it's effortless. When she sings Driving So Fast, I'm about to piss on myself, it's just really funny and cheeky. Nelly plays the role of her partner in crime. He organically hops on the beat, taking over the song and matching Miley's energy the whole way. I could have seen this being a single. My Darling with Future always gets lost in the shuffle. It's kind of a snooze of a track. I mean, the hook works well and Future and Miley sound great together, but the movie in 3D lines feel so dated. Like, when was the last time you saw a 3D movie that wasn't Avatar? Wrecking Ball is the record's most iconic hit. Each line is just so perfectly delivered. There's some mathematical symmetry to this all. It's just designed to be a karaoke staple. The way that she belts on the track, you get a taste of her entire vocal range. The sheer vulnerability throughout, but especially in the bridge, you can't help but feel her pain. The shift to strings in the bridge really sells the melancholy before one final chorus hammers in the points. My favorite part has to be the ad-libs in the back. Miley's actually one of the credited writers. She co-wrote much of this record. It was produced by the now disgraced Dr. Luke, but also current superstar producer Circuit, who's still putting out bangers himself. Love Money Party with Big Sean's a standard banger. It's straightforward rap country. It's fun, background music for a party during the time of the album's release. Cyrus's rapping is a bit more comfortable on here, though at times she's going so fast you can't hear what she's saying, but it does sound pretty. Big Sean's verse works, but the track isn't anything special. Get It Right definitely should have been a single. This Pharrell produced banger has a riff to die for. Miley's vocals are heavenly smooth. The track is a simple, straightforward, thirsty, seductive bop. There are clever lines here and there like "you make flowers grow under my bed" or "arrest it, cause that shit's criminal." The attitude is what sells the song. The switch up on the bridge really speaks to Pharrell's skill set as a producer. I'm shocked it never was a single. Drive takes us on a pretty wild ride that allows Miley to showcase her vocals. In one of the most personal songs, you can really feel the pain in her voice on this electro ballad. It was written on Valentine's Day. The song really interrogates feelings of being on a one-sided relationship. The chorus hits every time, but the bridge really sets up themes and ideas that would be revisited on future tracks, like the underrated Slide Away, which feels like a cousin to the song. FU continues the story, morphing sadness to anger over a soulful production. Miley really gets a chance to showcase another side of her vocals. Here she's clear, confident, and out for revenge. French Montana's appearance is a little random, but Miley's ad-libs helps him sell the song. It felt like a musical number in a movie or a play, but the production does help it fit in. Do My Thing seemed like another obvious single choice. The will.i.am co-production, it's very of its time. The lyrics kind of hit a little, but still I cannot unsee it being the opening track to Amy Schumer's Trainwreck movie. The last two tracks on the standard bleed very close to the old Miley. Maybe You're Right genuinely should have been a later single. It contains elements of her old rock self, but with the Bangerz DNA. Listening to it resembles the music that she'd eventually make on Plastic Hearts and ESV. The chorus would have been perfect post-breakup Instagram caption material. It's just relatable, raw, real, one of my favorites. Someone Else closes out the standard. It's a thesis statement about how heartbreak has transformed her into someone different. It's long, overwrought, but the way that she plays with the song structure here is great. The production definitely feels very dated, but that's part of its charm. Now, the bonus tracks are amazing, but I do get why they were left off. Rooting for My Baby is a great Pharrell-produced, smooth, soulful track. The riff and the way that Cyrus's vocals just float over the track, it's really about keeping true to your loved one. It's 1960 1970s-esque. It reminded me of Fleetwood Mac. It's an earworm. On My Own is another Pharrell funky bop. It doesn't really fit the Bangerz sound, but for good reason. It almost reminded me of the sort of track that he used to do with Gwen Stefani, the way that her voice scales along the instrumental, climbing up and down with the beat. It's a jam. The self-empowerment message is subtle but effective. Hands in the Air with Ludacris closes the project on a decent note. It's an okay track. Ludacris does a pretty good job with energy, but it feels very derivative, and by this time I was actually exhausted. Overall, Bangerz as an era was monumental for Miley. It really put her on the map as a serious artist and a public persona no longer defined by her childhood roles and previous work. It was such a shock and awe moment culturally, much to the point that the album that it was supposed to support had been forgotten. The record itself can be exhausting and uneven, but for me, it was her best record up until Plastic Hearts, and I have to give it a 7 out of 10. And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching this video. Oh my god, making this was pretty insane. Talking about Miley, it's always fun because she has such a variety when she does music. It really had been a while since I listened to Bangerz. Anyway, a quick shout out to my members, my subscribers. Thank you so much for the support. Comment below what you felt about the era, the stunts, everything. I need to know. Like, were you there or are you looking back? I hope to see you next video.